Shalom. I would like to give all reverence, due benevolence, worship, honor, praise, and glory unto the Most High God, whose name is Yahweh, and His only begotten Son, whose name is Yahweh Shai. Israelites, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, you are the true prince who was promised. You may be looking at the thumbnail of this video, and you see a picture of the famous Game of Thrones character Jon Snow next to a so-called black man in his royal apparel. And I created that juxtaposition, that similitude, if you will, because whenever I would watch Game of Thrones, the character Jon Snow always reminded me of our people. And this was before I came into the knowledge of who I was according to the scriptures, my heritage, and before I began in this walk. I just something within me was always like, there's a metaphor at play here that maybe the writers of the show were on game about, and we're just subtly suggesting to whoever could pick up on it. But I mean, when you watch a show, Jon Snow grew up in the house of Ned Stark and his children, House Stark in the north. And the whole time he was the rightful king. He was the son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark. And because I don't remember exactly how it went, but I know that I believe he was born out of wedlock, and he was given unto the Starks for them to raise so that he wouldn't be killed, because the Mad King was wilding out. It's been a little while since I've watched Game of Thrones fully through, but the point is, Jon Snow was supposed to be the rightful king. And when the show started, Robert Baratheon was king, and when he was about to die, there was a big controversy over who should take the throne, because people knew that his alleged children were not really his children, but they were born of incest. So without going too deep into it, Jon Snow was sent unto the wall. His whole life he was raised, and he was told that, he was just kind of like a part of the family, but not really, not by blood. And when he came of age, he had to go to the wall to protect the country of Westeros, the fictional country of Westeros, from the wildlings who lived beyond the wall. So it was pretty much like doing the dirty work for the country. And when he went onto the wall, he had to do what? He had to take up the black. So it's almost apparent beyond even, like, you don't even have to dig deep to understand what they're trying to say there. The point is, he was supposed to be king. Instead, he took up the black, and he had to do the dirty work that no one else wanted to do to protect the powers that be. And that's exactly what our people are here in the land of our captivity in Babylon, the United States of America, and all the other countries that we are scattered throughout. We are the prince who was promised, quite literally. And if you think that I'm just trying to make a connection just to sound some type of way, this is the book of Genesis, chapter 29. Excuse me. This is the book of Genesis, chapter 32, and verse number. I'm gonna get the whole account, actually, because this is the account of Jacob wrestling with the angel. So this is the book of Genesis chapter 32 and verse 24. It says, and Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. Reading on, verse 25, it says, and when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. And he said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. Finishing up, it says, verse number 29, and Jacob asked him and said, tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. So Jacob wrestled with a literal angel who came in the form of a man until the breaking of the day. So until dawn, it was dawning. The sun was coming up, and he's still fighting with this angel. And because he was able to do that, the Most High changed his name. He's like, now you're not going to be called Jacob no more. Now your name is Israel, because as a prince had he power with God. The name Israel literally means he is the prince of the power. And an exact literal translation is he prince power. He is the prince of the power. Names have meaning. Names have power. To be an Israelite means that you have power with the Most High and His only begotten Son. But that has been kept from our people because these heathen, they know exactly who we are. And that went part and parcel with them taking us into captivity. All throughout history, all these people groups knew who we were and know who we are still unto this day. Our people are just bullheaded and don't want to acknowledge the fact that we are the children of God and we need to return unto Him if we want to escape this captivity. Yeah, you may have a house in the suburbs, or you may have your own whip. You may have a decent job that pays you enough to do whatever it is you want to do, travel once a year, twice a year, whatever it is that you like to do. But this is not our land of our rulership, of our dominion. So just to prove that, this is the book of Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4. It says, and thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. This is the identity crisis that our people have today. Unless you're in this knowledge and in this truth, you don't know who you are. So anybody can speak sweet words into your ears, and you believe it because it sounds sweet. You're an Egyptian, you're an African, you're whatever it is, anything that's not an Israelite. And you may say, well, there are people living in Israel right now. What about the Jewish people who are in Israel now? Those are imposters. It will be said incessantly on this platform, they have robbed us of our identities. Of our identity. And our Lord Yahweh HaMashiach told us exactly how it was going to go down in Luke chapter 21 and verse number 24. He said, and Jerusalem will be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Just paraphrasing that verse and not saying so verbatim. Jerusalem has been trodden down by Gentiles. That's why you see these Amalekites, which is their true nationality, bowing unto the Western Wall, wearing these kippas, doing whatever it is that they do. Those are not the true people of the Most High according to the scriptures. So you shouldn't feel offended when you have to defend yourself and say no. You know, that's like let's say you're fortunate enough to have come from a 2-parent household and your parents die and they were people of some sort of esteem and they had something to leave behind for you, and someone else came and said, nah, I'm actually their child and I was born X amount of years before you, so the inheritance belongs to me. You're not going to feel some type of way and be like, man, if you don't step. Yeah, you'll feel some type of way then. You'll be going to the court system then. You'll be trying to pull all types of documentation that you didn't even know you had to validate your claim to being their rightful heir and their eldest child, whatever it is. But when it comes to your identity according to the scriptures, your nationality, your identity, your heritage, your culture, you feel some type of way because there are other people who are claiming that as well. But the prophecies explicitly say that we are the people and we fit the curses in Deuteronomy 28. And because you don't want to step on toes, you want to in turn tuck your tail and be like, okay, because I don't want to offend anybody, I can't come out and say that nothing but lies have spread throughout all the earth and that I actually am a prince who has power with God. You got to be bold in that. We are that Jon Snow. And maybe there needs to be an egret who says, you know nothing, Jon Snow. I'm telling you, they really just, I can't say this with all certainty, but it's just, the connection is so apparent. The woman that Jon Snow was infatuated with, who he ended up doing the deed with, she would always tell him, you know nothing, Jon Snow. Why is that? Because he literally knew nothing. He was walking around ignorant his whole life. Didn't even know that he was supposed to be the king of the whole country. And instead, he's doing not even blue collar work, putting his life on the line for people who didn't care about him at all. But deep down, knew that, he had claim above them all and was more powerful than them all. And his power just showed naturally. He was naturally a leader. He was naturally a gifted warrior. He naturally knew what to do in situations. He carried the show, and that's why he was the main character. Centered around him. And it's the same thing on the world stage. We are that proverbial main character in the earth. It may be hard to believe because we've been dehumanized so much and taken from a state of heaven, which is a mindset as much as it is a kingdom, and have been relegated unto the earth, which is a state of abasement and being humbled. But there's more verses that go into our identity too. I want to really go into it over time because there are just so many beautiful precepts that are undeniable that you can pull out against anybody. Not to say that obtaining knowledge of the scriptures is supposed to be a competition or a battle all the time, but you're supposed to teach your brethren, exhort your brethren, and that's going to come with pushback. But when you have these precepts, it's a defense because nobody can question them. Nobody. Just for the evidence of that, this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 65 and verse 15. It says, and ye shall leave your name for a curse unto my chosen, for the Lord God shall slay thee and call his servants by another name. Is that not what the Lord did unto our people? Because we wouldn't keep the commandments in antiquity and we wouldn't return unto the Father. during and after the time of Hamashiach Yahushua our Lord wholeheartedly? Did he not put us on ships and send us into slavery via the transatlantic slave trade? Did he not have the Ishmaelites rise up against us and take us into captivity during the trans-Saharan slave trade? Were our women not ripped up? It's one of the greatest atrocities in human history. The establishment of the gynecological system here in the United States of America. It should make your blood boil every time you hear about it. Doctors ripping up our women with child because they felt as though our women had such a high pain tolerance that they wouldn't feel what they were doing to them if they didn't use anesthesia. The wickedness, and we just shrug our shoulders and want to sing Kumbaya with these people. They stole your identity and they did stuff like that onto your women too. You Israelites, man, you Black Hispanics and Native Americans, you're quick to pick up a gun and kill somebody if another man has sex with the woman who you know deep down you don't even have serious intentions about wifing up or doing right by. But when it comes to remembering our history, when we had functional unions and seeing what the heathen in these other nations did to our people is just, hey, well, yeah, that's terrible, bro, but this is the present time. Like, come on. You are the prince who was promised. And these are the evidences, the tokens that we're supposed to look at in the scriptures and identify with so that we can remember who we are. That's what it tells us in the book of Baruch, chapter 2 and verse 30. It says, in the lands of our captivities will we remember ourselves. And this is what's happening right now. Over the last few decades, our people are waking up and we're saying, whoa, Deuteronomy 28. Whoa, Joel chapter 3. Whoa, Psalm chapter 83. Whoa, Lamentations chapter 5. Whoa, Deuteronomy 30. Whoa, Genesis chapter 49. That's not talking about the people who are in Israel right now. And as much as the Amalekites deserve their judgment for superseding us, this goes for just on the general sense of just understanding who you are. It's as much about understanding who you are and that you are the people and what that means in terms of abiding by the covenant that we signed with the Most High, as much as it is about preaching the truth about what's happened to our people. Because you can understand who you are all you want, but if behind closed doors you're not keeping these commandments and building your faith, that just makes you someone who likes to rail on others for injustices. You might as well go and march or create petitions or become a civil rights activist, which in and of itself is not the worst thing in the world. But again, we're supposed to put our vote of confidence, so to speak, into the Lord. And we cast our ballot by keeping the commandments and praying unto him, making our supplication, changing our lives, not by investing in the political system and hoping that mayors, governors, presidents will bring about the change that we want to see. Because even if at the best we are put on the same level as these other nations in the lands of our captivities, we're never going to be in a position of rulership, and we're never going to be in our homeland. And that will never change unless and until Yahushua HaMashiach returns and does a quick and speedy riddance of these workers of iniquity and beams us up in those chariots and puts us back in our land where we belong. Because we're here because we transgressed the law. And that's what it tells us in the book of Hosea chapter 3. And I'll just close out there. Hosea 3 is a brief chapter, but it's a very beautiful chapter. I'll read all 5 verses. This is starting at Hosea chapter 3 and verse 1. It says, "Then said the Lord unto me, Go yet, love a woman beloved of her friend, yet an adulteress, according to the love of the Lord toward the children of Israel, who look to other gods and love flagons of wine. So stopping right there, the Lord told the prophet Hosea to go love an adulteress, someone who was sleeping with another man while she was married to her husband. That's what the Most High said unto Hosea. He said, go, go and love that woman. And that would be an ensign of the love that the Lord has toward us. Why? Because we are proverbially married unto the Lord. And that union is made perfect by us keeping the commandments. So when we look to other gods, to Allah, to Buddha, worshiping a stone and a rock, having our own moral codes and our own systems of belief on what's subjectively right and upstanding, and not just looking at the words of the Most High, he likens that unto adultery. Because he loves us, we're supposed to love him. So when we go serve other gods, that's like stepping out on him. And it's a beautiful analogy. Reading on verse 2, it says, "So I bought her to me for 15 pieces of silver, and for an omer of barley, and an half omer of barley. And I said unto her, Thou shalt abide for me many days. Thou shalt not play the harlot, and thou shalt not be for another man. So will I also be for thee." Verse 4, this is the operative verse. "For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king, and without a prince, and without a sacrifice, and without an image, and without an ephod, and without a teraphim." So that's what Hosea's marriage to this adulteress was supposed to represent. It was supposed to foreshadow we as Israel falling away from our heritage. That's what it means to be without a prince. That's talking about the Lord Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. Without a king, same thing. On a deeper level, that's talking about the lineage of Judah through the loins of King David, and the lineage of Ephraim, who were kings of the northern kingdom, the northern 10 tribes. There's Ephraim and Judah. Those were the kings after the kingdom was rended from Solomon. So we'd be without a king and without a prince. Our people don't have a king and a prince. We're waiting for politicians to govern over us. It says, "And without a sacrifice and without an image." We don't have an image. What's the image that's erected nowadays in the Catholic Church, which so many of our people are in the Caribbean, and even here in the United States of America? The Catholic Church runs things. And what's their image? Cesare Borgia, the so-called white Jesus. Hamashiach Yahushua was a dark-skinned man. And dark skin is putting it lightly. He was extremely dark, like burnt brass as if it burned in a furnace. And he had woolly hair. He was walking around with a nice, thick afro. Woolly hair. So that's without an image. That's what the Lord told us in Deuteronomy 28. And without an ephod and without a teraphim, because the ephod was supposed to be placed on the priest. It was a part of his garment on the Levites. And the priests were supposed to make reconciliation for the people. So we don't have priests who are, necessarily speaking, set up in our own temples, who have jurisdiction over the people. We are coming back onto that understanding over the last few decades. And you may find congregations or leaders who take up that office, those who do so in sincerity and truth admirably. But we don't have this by and large. Our high priest is Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, after the order of Melchizedek. And without teraphim. So we are the prince who was promised. If you are someone who likes Game of Thrones, you should watch it again after reading the scriptures and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Or you may already pick up on it and just be like, hey, you hit the nail right on the head. And if you don't like Game of Thrones, it's a nice show to watch if you want to unwind and not just be preoccupied in the scriptures and the scriptures only. Because it's also not good to be over righteous. But we are the prince who was promised. Know your nationality. Know what the name of your nationality is, who your progenitor is, and understand the power that you have with the Most High. Okay, now you have that information. What are you supposed to do with it? You're supposed to conduct yourself like a prince who has power with the Most High and his only begotten Son. Start by keeping the commandments. When you do so and you put away iniquity, it strengthens the connection that you have with the Lord. And then from there, your prayers will be heard. You'll see change in your life, and it'll prepare you to withstand the evil day that is going to be multiplied upon the earth. With that, I say, Shalom, the true prince who was promised. Shalom, Israel.